Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Community FC. We've got another Roundup review coming for you, as always. This is going to be episode 8 of season 2. And yes, don't worry, folks. The constant co-host is back. He's back from holiday. We have Rich. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you very much. I hope you had a great episode about me.
Yeah, it was good. I felt like it was a good time to have Jay on to talk about the Chelsea stuff. But I know you've been itching to get back on and get your views out there to the people.
Yeah, I feel I've got a lot of pent up views now after a week of not doing them. So
True. But did you have a lovely holiday for the audience?
yeah, it was absolutely cracking.
That's what we
Lots of
like.
food, lots of booze,
Recharge the batteries.
recharge the batteries. Yeah, it was really nice to get away.
That's what we like. Anyway, right. So this episode, we thought there's not a crazy amount that's happened in the world of football that we want to touch on. We thought we're going to have a kind of quite a quick, nice episode, but we just want to touch on a few things. So I think we're going to kick straight off by talking about the Prem. I think there's bits to talk about from the top, the bottom, and the mid. So I'll let you kick off wherever you'd like to start.
Um, shall we start with the top of the table?
Yeah.
Because I think we've just come off a weekend where we had first versus second. A fixture that I think a lot of people possibly thought was going to be the title decider.
Yeah.
But in fact, 2 days on, we are no closer to knowing who's going to win this league.
I know, and I will cut in there if you don't mind for 1 second. I think I'm caught in two minds, and I still can't decide, even after the weekend. I can't decide whether I wanted there, half my mind, this is where I'm split. Half my mind, I was like, I want there to be a winner. I want someone to nick a goal to be like, right now they're firm favourites for the title. And I just think that game deserved a blowout finish with someone getting a final goal right at the end. Part of me is also like, but if you're talking about taking it to the wire, that's the result. That if you wanted that's interesting as well. So yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah, and this is going to be a real this is going to be all up in the brains of Klopp and Pep. I think this is what it's going to be. They slugged it out at the weekend. I think 2-2 was a fair result.
Mm-hmm.
They both played good football. And to be fair, to score twice against Liverpool and against City is no mean feat at all.
Absolutely.
So, we saw two juggernauts really slogging it out. And usually, because talking to my wife before the game, I was like, yeah, it's going to be. I think it'll be a good one today because it's so close. In the previous years, we've seen these two play, and it'll be a 0-0 draw or a squeaky 1-0 win or something. But I was genuinely excited because I did think that it was going to be a good game, and it really was. And I think Sterling was very, very. He was very unfortunate not to nick a winner there. I think that was possibly one of the closest offside calls I've seen.
Mm-hmm. It was very close.
We're talking. I think you put in the group chat
centimeters. Yeah,
yeah, literally. About an inch. So, yeah, it was an absolutely fascinating one. As I said on previous roundup reviews, I do think Liverpool have got a harder run in.
Yeah, I agree.
Than City, but the way Liverpool are playing, you can't really see them dropping many points.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. We didn't put predictions in the chat, I don't think, for some of us, but I was on the fence because I literally was like, it's either going to be classic, and I had two score lines in my head. Neither of them happened, but I was like, it's either going to be 1-1 and it's going to be really overhyped and not actually a very good game and just really bitty, or it's going to be 3-2. And I was so sure it was 3-2 when I was watching it that someone would score that one at the end, but it didn't quite happen. But I think, yeah, lots of people, as you said, were really excited for this game, and it really was there wasn't much to look forward to on that Sunday in terms of fixtures in that sense. So people were like, this is the Super Sunday game, and there was a lot of buzz. You could just feel it going around for that game, and it really delivered because that was one of the best games of football that I have seen, apart from potentially, again, they're quite close games to go on, but potentially the game that you went to in person of the cup final, because we've had two games that have been absolutely phenomenal in this season, and they are the two games, and it was a joy to watch, as you said, these two titans of English football currently just slog it and go at it with literally just hitting each other. It was this defender versus that defender. It was that attacker versus, and it was just really good to see the squads go at it, and the fact that they both scored so early made it really open game, I feel.
Yeah, you just got that real sense of attacking threat from both sides because City kind of for the opening sort of 10 minutes were just tearing Liverpool apart at the back, and then Liverpool started tearing City apart,
mm-hmm.
and it was crazy to see these two teams that any other week are just so solid, just being torn apart. But that is the quality of the attacking portions of those teams. So I still think it's City's.
Yeah.
But let's not take away from Liverpool the fact that that was a 14-point lead.
Yeah, 100%. Like I agree with you, and I do think it's still City's title. But I also think, and we will talk about this slightly later on, I also think a result in Europe could decide the morale of the team and could decide that the Premier League this season as well. So it'll be a really interesting one. Right. I think we'll move on. We'll say top four for the last. I think we're going to move on to the bottom half of the table. I actually only really have one game that I really wanted to talk about. Oh, actually, probably two, but one of them we can link into top four. So I'll start on this one if you don't mind. So the big one that I wanted to touch on was the Norwich game, because it was Norwich-Burnley. And I think quite a lot of people in recent weeks have kind of gone, they'd written Burnley off, etc. And then they'd started pulling points back, pulling games back and getting some big results against teams that they needed to. And I can't help but feel, just like another team we'll touch on later, this is a very deciding game for their season. To lose 2-0 against who are going to be bottom of the table, and no offence meant to any Norwich fans, you've actually played really well since your new manager and you've shown a lot of fight. And I thought you'd had an awful lot less points than you do currently where we are in the season. But I just think that Burnley have let that slide there, and I just think that might ruin the day that they had that result, and that might be them going down.
Yeah, this is the thing, because Burnley had 3 or 4 games in hand at one point.
A lot of games.
And they've just not done anything with those games. And a massive 6-pointer against Norwich. You can't afford to lose them. We said it earlier on in the season. Sean Dyche, I think his time passed a little while ago.
Yeah.
I think if Burnley didn't have the sense of loyalty and had gotten a new manager in after Christmas, while they still had those games in hand, I think we might be looking at a slightly different position, because Burnley on paper, the team isn't bad, especially with Weghorst now in the team. You know how much I love him.
Yeah,
I think he's a real solid forward, and I think he would have done. He would do a good job, but I just don't think he's been managed correctly. I don't think they're playing the right football to bring him in necessarily, and I think, to be honest, that 3 that we see now are the 3 that are going down, unless Burnley can pull something off and Everton have an absolute hooner, because but the thing is, you could almost say that you could see that happening, because Everton are awful right now.
Yeah,
they are just playing terrible.
Before we jump onto Everton quickly, so I just want to touch on Burnley, and then we'll go into Everton for sure. Yeah, I agree with you what you're saying. By the way, I think that it's between those two now. But I don't think it's Dyche. I really, I think it's clear on here that I'm a big Sean Dyche advocate in terms of managerial sense. I don't understand the Weghorst thing, where for the first game or two he looked pretty good and it looks like he'd slot into that Chris Wood position and they just carry on. I just don't. I don't know whether it's just Burnley's time now. They've escaped it so many times, and I just think the squad is just not, for whatever reason, working well. So who knows? But yeah, let's move on to Everton. I guess I'll quickly kick off on this one and move on swiftly, because obviously they were playing my team, and we'll link it into it because this is the top 4 / the bottom. So Everton, I think it's very fair to say, were the bottom team in terms of on form in the Premier League. Like, they were just playing awful football, getting battered by teams, and Frank didn't seem to have a solution. Now, this I'm caught in two minds over, because Everton did, for once, actually look like they had a plan pulled together, and they did show some team spirit and some fight. And I'm not taking that away from you, Everton fans, if any of you are listening, but United were atrocious. Like, we were awful. There was no creativity. The only thing that would have changed that, and I do think massive props, I've slated him all the time at club level. I think Jordan Pickford's awful when he plays for Everton. He is the reason that result didn't go anywhere. Marcus Rashford, who's not been on great form at all, had 2 amazing chances in that first half. And if one of them had gone in, I think we would have absolutely rampaged against you and scored a lot of goals. And it just didn't go that way. And United were awful. And so, Everton get the points on that end, which is, could be huge for them. But they've still got some tough fixtures coming up. And again, still not looking particularly good. And one win, I don't know if there's enough to pull them out of the slump they're in. But United, I mean, come on, like literally. So I've said this before now. I think I said on last week's pod with Jamie saying that I think top four's gone now for United. And I'm kind of that very pessimistic stage now where I'm like pretty much resigned to it. The problem is I still can't think this because the other teams around top four decided to have a jolly as well. And so we had Arsenal yet again losing second week on a bounce. We had West Ham losing to Brentford and all these other teams. I said it before, and I think I said it last week. Anybody wants to claim top four, come and get it because the other teams are just losing it, and then there's no reason to it. United have to play Arsenal in 2 games' time. We've got Liverpool, and then we've got Arsenal. So some big games for us. But if Arsenal say they lose the next game as well and keep on their Arsenal form, and I said this, Arsenal fans, I said doing an Arsenal because that's what it is at the end of the season. You have the Arsenal syndrome. But if we'd won that match against Everton, think how that would have been, and we could have gone, to Arsenal. I think it's going to Arsenal, and we could have had a massive go, and that could be us taking top four or potentially challenging Spurs. I'll let you kick off on Spurs because they're the only one that actually seem to want to actually get a top four spot.
Well, I'll just say that I really do hope Arsenal do an Arsenal because I'm actually going to see the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So would quite like to see a decent result. But realistically, Arsenal have got a game in hand on Spurs. They've got a game in hand on United. West Ham played a game over United. They've got 2 games over Arsenal. I think West Ham probably aren't going to get it.
Yeah,
they dropped out of the race now. On form,
Spurs.
It's Spurs. I mean, they're playing well. Conte's finally got them playing a decent level of football. I think we're seeing Kulusevski start to come out of his skin a little bit now. He's an absolute baller and a great signing from them. Chelsea have already ran away with third. I think. I don't think they can be caught. They've got a game in hand on everyone as well.
Yeah.
I just don't see Arsenal doing it. I don't think United have got enough in the tank to push. Really,
it wouldn't surprise me in one sense because again, Spurs have bottled a lot of stuff, right? And that's the problem. And they've been so hit and miss too. United actually have been fairly consistent, just consistent in bloody draws, let alone anything else. So, I think it's open. Again, I think I said last week, I'm pretty sure it's going to be City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs. But depending on how some results go, and if Spurs suddenly again next week decide they aren't a team anymore again, and it all falls off, then United could squeeze in. But I think if not, I think that's going to be the top four.
The biggest problem for United, I mean, I can't remember a time where we've got to this point of the season and United have got an under 10 goal difference.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the biggest problem because points wise, you can probably catch them.
Yeah.
However, they've got a plus 19 goal difference.
Yeah,
got
absolutely.
Plus 7. And that's going to be the biggest problem, I think, because it's, you're only 6 points behind them. Tottenham do Tottenham things and slip up.
Yeah.
2 wins and 2 losses is going to bring you even. However, that goal difference is quite a lot to overturn. 12 goals is a lot to overturn. And I think if it goes down to the wire, and if United pick up form a little bit, there's no reason why I can't see them getting that 5th spot. But I just on goal difference, I think Tottenham probably cinch it.
Yeah, I think on form as well. I think Tottenham are going to take it. The only thing that I can see is if there's an absolute collapse of Spurs, and then I will only have some hope if we win that game against Arsenal, and then maybe we'll see. But until then, I think that's the order. Anyway, I think that's pretty much top and bottom and the mids covered. I'll let you off this week and we won't touch on your game. And
didn't play on Saturday. What are you talking about?
Good, like that, yeah. So we're quickly going to step away from the Prem and then we're going to come back. So I just really wanted to, we haven't really touched on it too much, but I just want to talk about Champions League because we're getting into some of the later stages of the Champions League at the moment. There's been some phenomenal matches. We're just going to do some really quick, talk about some of the teams in it and then do some kind of prediction things. So to start off with, we're recording this on a Tuesday currently, and Chelsea are going to the Bernabeu in 40 minutes time to have that that next game. Do you see a Chelsea comeback?
No, so I don't, is the short answer. And actually, whilst I was on holiday, I did actually, that was the first Champions League game I've watched this season. And for you listeners out there, as a Southampton fan, I don't really follow the Champions League that much. I'll watch a game if it's going to be spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, Aidan and I watch the Champions League final together.
Yep.
But other than that, I don't really have any stakes in it, especially since it came off of ITV and whatnot and went on to the kind of BT and stuff. I've got BT, but I just won't stick it on. But yeah, I did watch that first leg. My father-in-law is a Chelsea fan, so
sorry, John.
Sorry, John. It was quite good because I was laughing a lot at him because before he was quite hyped up, understandably. But I think Real Madrid really showed their class. I don't think Chelsea showed up really. They didn't play play their best at all. I think it was more of a case of actually that Chelsea weren't at the races rather than Real Madrid being too good for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from the main man though, Benzema. You and I have been fans of Benzema for years.
Yep.
Absolute years. He's always been quality. Any football manager save, if I've got a bit of cash, he's the man I'm looking for because he's guaranteed goals. And I think all it's taken is for him to step out of the shadows.
Yeah, this is the thing. We kind of have talked about it a little bit, but like he has always been phenomenal, and it's where he's been in the shadows where he gets left behind, and he still had great goal contribution. And there's a famous quote of him, I think, from a couple of years ago, where he's just like, "If I do nothing for some strikers, are happy to do nothing for 90 minutes, and then last minute of the game, get a goal." And then they're buzzing. He's like, if I do that, I'm absolutely furious because he wants to be more. And I think he's just proven now that he has got that number 9 role. He is everything a number 9 should be. He's got everything. He's got left foot. He's got right foot. He's got heading ability for days. He's got everything, and he is the complete number 9. And he showed his class. But also, it was the fact that I watched the PSG Real Madrid game before, and I've seen already this season a Benzema very quick hat trick, and to see him do it again is like, wow, he's just on fire at the moment. A big shout out to him, and I think Vinicius Jr. and him have played so well together, and that link up play was amazing, and that was the difference. But Chelsea were looking a bit shell shocked. The only interesting thing I was going to bring up for 2 seconds before was obviously Chelsea had that big loss to Brentford, which was a bit of a shell shock, and then you were like, how are they going to kind of come back from that? And we're like, maybe it's a blip, maybe it's whatever. But the same thing. Xavi doing an immense job at Barcelona, bringing them back when nobody thought they'd be getting top 5, let alone anything. And they look a very different team. Obviously, they went and beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. Is it 4-0 or 4-1? I can't remember. It might be 4-1, but yeah, they scored 4. And, at the Bernabeu, like that's unheard of. So there could be, what I'm trying to say is there could be a collapse of the Bernabeu tonight. I personally don't see it unless you get the form of Champions League winning Chelsea. But unfortunately, I don't see them having that at the moment. I can see them putting up a fight and playing better. I just don't see them getting anywhere near the form that they were when they previously won it. Anyway, all gone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to be honest, I can probably see Chelsea maybe winning tonight 1-0. But I don't think they've got enough.
Yeah, they're not going to win the league.
To be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
They're not going to get it over 2 legs.
100%. So we'll quickly touch on the 2 other British teams still left in the league. So obviously Liverpool are 3-1 up against Benfica. I really see a Champions League Liverpool team at the moment. They are thriving in European competition like they generally do. I don't see that being any different, and I see them banging a couple more goals in when they play. And City 1-0 up against Atletico Madrid. Again, I think this is the most interesting one, but I do think they've just got enough. I have a feeling they'll just, they'll get an extra goal, and it might be a bit more high scoring in the next game, but I just see them just getting through to the next round.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it would be quite funny for Liverpool to have a win overturned in a second leg. The amount of times that they've done a comeback,
absolutely,
it would be quite funny to see another team get a comeback. But I do think Liverpool will go through. I do think City will go through.
Yeah.
And then I think Bayern Munich are good for overturning that Villarreal.
Yeah, so do I.
I think those are the 4 we're going to see in the semis.
So, without us knowing the draws in the semis, let's skip semis. Let's go Who do you think? We don't know obviously the draws or anything for how it happened, but who do you think right now, if we're thinking those teams are going to go through, like I think we both do, who do you think the final is going to be? Pick two teams right now that you think is on your money to be.
So I'm gonna talk you through my workings here.
Yeah.
Okay. So
be interesting to see. We haven't discussed this, so you might have the same thinking as me. So we'll see.
We're gonna get on one side of the draw, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and the other side of the draw, we're gonna get that City Liverpool. I think we're gonna get it early. And then I think we're going to see Real Madrid and City in the final.
Interesting. And would you tip a winner, or you're not that yet?
I'll back City because
first time.
It's got to be time, isn't it? It's got to be about time now.
Interesting.
That's what I'm saying. I think that everyone will be anticipating a City Liverpool final.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to get that in the semi-final.
Interesting.
Because I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to get your tinfoil hat on, if you're going to go a little bit Matt Latisse, you're not going to want another All English final, are you?
No.
One of them balls is going to be warmer. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we've seen issues with balls this season at these All
I'm saying, if I'm UEFA and I wanted to promote other leagues.
Heard it here first. If there's a farce over the balls, you heard it here first. Community FC.
Yeah. Cutting edge journalism. This is
right. We'll take tinfoil hat for a second. I'll run you through my thoughts. I don't know what I hadn't thought that far about who's going to play who in the semis. I just have the final for you. I think the final's going to be Liverpool Madrid. And I think City are just going to lose out, and I think they're going to bottle it. I think they'll win the league, but they'll just bottle it in the Champions League. And I think we're going to get a classic Liverpool final, but I don't think they're going to get the result. This again, it could be tinfoil hatty from me, but I think we're going to see a really close game, but we're going to see a Madrid win, which tips Karim Benzema to get the Ballon d'Or over Lewandowski or someone. That's where I'm at. That's what my head's at the moment. But we'll see. So that's what I'm predicting.
No, I like that. I'm a fan of that. Would also accept a Gareth Bale bicycle kick again.
to end his career at Real Madrid, to then go be a professional golfer after earning $650,000 a week to play golf. I'm unreal. Still turns up at the big games though for Real Madrid and Wales. So say what you want. Cool. Well, that's just a bit of fun. We thought we'd throw out there. Obviously, we're going to be keeping an eye on the Champions League as it gets into the later stages. So the next one, we're going to go back to the Premier League. We've got two things to talk about. One is kind of a funny little story at the end, and I think we're both on the same page on it, but we wanted to put it out there. But the next one was really a really quick subject I wanted to touch on was obviously the substitute rule has been confirmed for next season. So we're going to be allowed to have 5 substitutes going forward from next season and continuing. So I have a few questions that I would like to ask you. And I didn't say this before. I'll let you have your opinion at the end, but I want to ask you a couple of questions first, and then maybe that would change your mind on live on air. So the first question I have is, I think this is a pretty obvious one, but does having 5 substitutes benefit the top teams, and specifically teams like City that have outrageous talent on the bench?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Nice, easy answer. Is having 5 substitutions better for players and squads' health? That might be a more interesting one.
That is an absolute yes. And to be honest, is more the reason that I am for this rule, because realistically, is it going to benefit the big teams? Absolutely. But let's be honest, they have everything their way anyway. It doesn't really matter so much, City are still running away with games with 3 subs. They're going to be running away games with 5 subs. It's the same with Liverpool.
Yeah,
maybe to a lesser extent.
Yeah, I think it is slightly more unfair if you've got such a plethora of incredible, like 100 million plus talent that they could bring on an extra superstar and win them. But as you said, like if they were going to win anyway, it's probably going to be the case. So I do feel bad for some clubs that will be the case, where a lower club will have that situation. It 100% will happen. Where that fifth sub
we'll bring on Theo Walcott.
There you go. And my last question. So I kind of talked about top teams. We talked about player health. So obviously that's the other side of it. And there's a couple of different arguments. And this is the third argument for the fans. Does having 5 substitutions give us better football by having faster paced end of games?
100% yes. It absolutely does. And listen, I agree with 5 subs. Okay, and I'll just lay out the reasons why I agree. So, firstly, you asked about player health, and I think that's wildly important, especially, we're both avid football fans. We love watching football, but my God, there's so much football on, and we're talking internationals. I like the international friendlies and qualifiers. They're sooner and sooner. We're seeing like a month rather than we used to see maybe 3 months. We've got games that have been postponed and caught up with. We've got bloody World Cup in the middle of a season. We've still got the backlog of football from COVID,
absolutely,
and everything. It only makes sense, and especially for a team like Southampton that have been so injury hit, especially last season, because we couldn't keep playing. We don't have a big enough squad or enough talent in that squad to keep playing at a high level. So I think absolutely that has to be done. The second thing, I think it will make the game more exciting. I think it'll give a lot of different options out. But there's one thing that I'm really hoping that we get to see from this. And I was listening to a podcast earlier, and where they said that maybe there needs to be some sort of specification on who you can sub on with those extra 2 substitutions. Now, this is all just hypotheticals, and in practice, probably going to be really hard to do.
Yeah.
But for example, what if I told you can make 5 subs, but 2 of those subs have to be homegrown, or 2 of those subs have to be from your youth setup or your under 23s? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To give these guys more game time, to stop the likes of City bringing on 5 £50 million players. Why not say we can bring on 3 £50 million players, but then that kid that you've signed from your academy
has to come on.
He has to play. Do you know what I mean? So that then gives. How many times do you see, especially for bigger clubs, you'll see a squad list, and on the subs you've got 3 or 4 youth players, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. They're not going to get on the pitch. The entire time they're with the first team, they're not playing with the reserve team. So they're not playing at all, really, because they're not getting on the pitch for the first team. They're not in the reserve team squad because they're in the first team squad, but they're not playing at all. Those players, I think it'd be super beneficial.
Yeah.
Because you've got, it's 85th minute, you've made your 3 subs, you've got 2 youngsters that are eager to get on and play. Bit of pace, gives them that little bit of time without taking away. And this is especially important for a smaller club like Southampton. We can't afford to give a relative youngster the time on the pitch if we aren't in a great position, because we need to bring on someone who can do something.
Yeah, an age vet to slow the game down or secure the points. Yeah,
exactly right. Or go chasing a goal or something like that. And the amount of times I've seen someone like Nathan Tella on the bench, and I think the game's crying out for a Nathan Tella, but he's still fairly young. He's still fairly unproven, so he's not going to get on the pitch ahead of someone like Shane Long, who has scored, has done his bit in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can do something like that with the subs, I think that it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I haven't heard that myself, but I think there's a lot of things being bandied around about different rules and stuff at the moment. An interesting other one I saw, and actually I saw someone do a breakdown on how it would be positively beneficial, but doesn't sound like it would be on the surface. Again, not saying I agree with it at all, just putting it out there. Someone was saying that they're looking to reduce the length of the game currently. There's lots of trials going on about making it so it's a faster, more intense kind of stuff. And they were saying, but if you actually look at a football game and break it down into how much time is spent time wasting or how much time is spent with the ball out of play, it adds up to lots of extra minutes. That's an interesting one. Well, I
think I saw it's like 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
Where like and that's the other thing that I think is a big problem in football. Is that realistically we only get 60 minutes of gameplay?
Yeah,
and that's a completely different topic and issue.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
that needs to be addressed. And I don't want to get rid of injury time because I love injury time. I think the glory of scoring an injury time winner is fantastic. But I can't see where you go without stopping the watch.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's definitely rules to look into. And just swinging back to the subs rule, I think it's a really difficult one. I do see from a smaller club's perspective against the City thing, so maybe those rules you talked about help. But I do think for me, the biggest pro. I can't decide whether I'm for it or against it, but the biggest pro that I have is the health of players, because as you said, that it's crazy if you look at how much they've played since COVID. They basically haven't had a proper rest. Most of the players, especially if they went to the Euros, had like a week or like 3 weeks maximum that they got downtime to rest, recuperate, recover. And I know they get, people are going to be like, oh, they get paid tons of money and all this kind of stuff. There's still downtime needed, mental health wise. There's still, your body needs to recover, and actually just spending time with their families and doing something away from football, not training constantly and thinking about football and having to live their lives the way it is for a footballer. They need at least a little bit of time off. But going
They're
from
still
that,
human.
exactly, and going from that straight into the season, then going straight into the Euros, then going straight into another season which started earlier, and then going into this season which started earlier because of a World Cup. They're literally going to get zero rest, and you're going to see injury rates come up. And we've seen a lot of other things happen, such as Christian Eriksen's cardiac arrest and stuff. There's other, I'm not saying that is because of it, but there's a lot of stuff that's affecting players. So that's the positive for me. Anyway, we'll move on from that. It's an interesting debate, and I think you're going to see lots more stuff. There's a lot of rules being bandied about, and maybe we'll do an episode on all the proposed rules, including like Wenger's World Cup one and all sorts of stuff. But the last one we wanted to talk about, Rich actually sent this in the group chat, and it was I'll let him explain in a minute, but it was a funny video that we saw because, and I say funny, and I'm going to put it in our funny section because I think it is utterly bonkers. People can disagree with us because I know that we're both on the same page, but I'll let you kick off with this one.
There's only going to be one set of people who disagree with this potentially. And this little nugget comes from Arsenal Fan TV, of all places.
They do provide.
They do provide such glorious entertainment to us all. Now, this was a interview that they had after a game with a chap. And to cut a long story short, the chap insinuated that the reason why Arsenal weren't doing so good is because of all the Chelsea loanees at other clubs, perhaps putting in a bit more of a shift against Arsenal in order to help Chelsea out. And his solution to this was to ban loans to the same league, which is absolutely crazy. Now I know Matt Letizia is bonkers, but this guy,
that's up there.
Is just, yeah, what the hell? How do you get that? He even dragged in Lamptey,
which he wasn't even correct.
He wasn't even on loan. he was bought.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. He mentioned Gallagher at Palace.
Yeah,
I think he brought up Brozier at Southampton.
I was going to say Conor Gallagher is living in his head rent free.
Oh yeah, Christ! I mean, the guy's just nuts. But yeah, I was just going to say, if you haven't seen this video, go and find it because it's absolutely crazy. And he says it with such a straight face, you can't believe it.
And I think, like, to touch on the subject for a few seconds, like, it doesn't take too much, but like, you're talking, we literally, I think I instantly came into the group chat and was like, this is hilarious, because I was like, I'm sorry. So you've got some youngsters, and lots of them you send out to lower league levels, League One, League Two, wherever it is, or, other leagues like Scottish Premier League, etc. But if you want some of the players which are just on, they're not ready to go down, they're too good to go down to the lower leagues, but they're not good enough to break into your first team, and you don't want to waste their talent on the bench because you think you can give them a little bit more experience, a little bit more readiness, you send them to the Premier League because you need Premier League experience. It's in the name. And you're saying that that's not going to be allowed, then it would never happen with youth players.
It's absolutely bonkers. And to be honest, without tarring every Arsenal fan with the same brush, it's exactly what the kind of comment you'd find on Arsenal Fan TV.
Yeah.
Those guys are some of the most deluded people I've ever seen in my entire life. And, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans, and a lot of them are delusional in some places, but the guys on that show are just ridiculous.
You can have, and just to bring it to like players again, to make it a bit more of an actual like topic. I'm going to go United, for example. We've got some incredible players out on loan. Jimmy Garner out for Forest is absolutely killing it at the moment, and lots of people, he's been linked to Southampton, he's been linked to come back to United team. That's brilliant, but he probably is ready for a Prem move. But then you look exactly like Brandon Williams. He had some time in the United first team, but wasn't playing regularly enough. And then he was like, right, Norwich came in and a few other clubs like Southampton and stuff, but had a lot of wages to go with him and a loan fee and all that kind of stuff. But he is exactly the player where he's so young still, but we were like, we want to see what he can do. So let's put him somewhere he's going to play pretty much week in, week out, and then make a decision on him. If you don't have that rule, it's like, and if you're like, no things, it's such a ridiculous thing because you're never going to see at Prem level. And that's what some players need. Some players need Premier League experience at a lower club with lower pressure or anything like that, especially for the bigger teams to then come in and go, right, I'm ready. And I just think if you take that out, you're going to see such a gap from a League One or a Championship player to a Premier League. It's a different kind of game.
Yeah, I do think if you look back, can you recall any Arsenal loanees, really? Anyone of any serious talent in the Premier League? I can't think of anyone who springs to mind who was loaned out other than Joe Willock to Newcastle. That's the only one I can think of.
I can't think off the top of my head. They had a few, but they've mostly been because they've had a flop at the season and then not done too well at that.
Yeah,
that other
it's not. There's never really been any kind of young, burgeoning talent. Do you know what I mean? It's not
because they play
Chelsea,
usually or they go out.
Yeah, exactly. So or they go abroad maybe.
Yeah.
It's purely because Chelsea, this current crop of Chelsea youth are great. They're fantastic. A lot of potential and a lot of talent. And also, there's a lot of them. That's the only thing I can think of.
But that's going to change, as we said. So, because they're going to have the loan rule that you've talked about a lot. So, it is what it is. That's the other thing.
Yeah, but I just thought that was an absolutely ridiculous point, and I thought it was a nice little light note to end the
absolutely. And also to whoever that the fan is and Arsenal TV in general, like I don't tend to watch it because most of the time it's fake and it's done for clickbait and it's all that kind of stuff. But I don't think this one particularly was. I think they picked him because they knew it would be a spicy subject. But whoever you are, mate, also get your facts right if you're going to go on a TV and have a rant about something so ridiculous. Learn if a player's actually been sold or not before you try to say that he's a loanee player. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. So I just want to say a big thank you for everyone that's been watching. Don't forget, if you've been liking this content, to give us a like on the video to let us know you've liked it. Subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when we put the videos up, even though we're pretty regular at the moment, but still always good to be notified. And if you are listening on Spotify, one of our lovely audio listeners, then don't forget to follow us and give us a 5-star rating. I just want to say a big thanks to Rich. It's been great to have you back, mate. I'm glad that you had a lovely holiday, but it's always nice to have you back. And means we can get to do some more pods, and I've got some fun stuff to discuss with you for some special episodes I've got coming up. So it's great to have you back, but thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me as always. Been a pleasure, and I missed you while I was away.
Oh, isn't that nice? So that has been episode 8 of season 2 of Community FC. Just some fun topics to touch on and some interesting ones that we thought would be a fun debate. We will be back potentially next week unless Easter plans kind of kick in. There's been a lot of stuff going on at the moment. But if not, we will catch you on an episode really soon.